Awesome, man. Welcome to the podcast, Zach. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good, Mike. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no problem. You're sweating your nuts off there down in Indiana, I hear.
Yes, yes. We have a crazy heat wave. It's like in the 90s, humid, like no airflow. So we were talking about our garage gyms and
Yeah.
just how bad it is out there. But yeah, it's like a sauna when I get done. I'll like go do a lift. I'll come in the house for a second and go back out. And yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, I tried doing that for a while, but I realized the more I went in the house, the less I wanted to go back out into the garage,
Oh.
even during a session. So now I have a little internal rule that I won't do it until I'm done with the session.
That's yeah. No, I have a client actually. He works in like a wood factory, and all they
Oof.
have is fans, and it's hot as crazy. And he'll still come and train with me, and I'm like, man, you're so hot. And he said, even when I get home, he said, I do not go in the house because he's like, my wife knows if I step in that house, I am not leaving like the couch.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
just be worthless. And yeah, so I mean, I just get like an air on my face, and then I go back out because yeah, it's over if you get too comfortable.
Yeah, and the worst thing is when I'm trying to do grip stuff too, like when it's really humid, like the sweat will run down off your forearms, and you'll take a towel, you'll wipe everything off, and I got friggin' chalk halfway up my arms, and like after about two reps, it's already like running down into your hands, and I'm like, what am I doing? This is like the dumbest exercise to do for this. Like maybe I should do
Yeah.
singles and then do something else, I guess.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough to manage. I also have backyard chickens, so
Oh wow.
yeah, moving them around and dealing with the heat, getting in water and stuff like that. But they seem to manage all right. They don't mind it too much.
Oh, that's good. That is a pro I find of having the cold water immersion. Like since I've had it now, oh God, this is 6 years. I've had the converted freezer, which has still got more silicone than anything on it by this point, but still works. Is that doing that after you're done training? Like I don't come in the house and sweat for like 3 hours
Oh yeah,
profusely, even in air conditioning.
that is
So it is
true.
kind of a nice way of just dumping all the heat. We could argue if that's the best from an adaptation standpoint or not. I guess it depends on what you're trying to do, but from a practicality of living my life, like even coming back in and having air conditioning, which is great, a lot of times you just have so much built up heat that you just sweat for hours afterwards even.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and it also just sticks to you. Like even if you
Yep.
wipe it off, I feel like it just still just sticks to you. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Anyway,
hopefully it doesn't last too much longer.
yeah, I hope not. So related to that, topic today is what are some things for better body composition? And I also find it interesting that related to what we are talking about at the intro, a lot of the people I've seen in the past with, pretty good physiques, pretty good body comp, like it seemed to be the trend years ago that like most of them trained in the worst possible conditions known to man. I often wonder about that. I've talked to Dr. Pat Davidson about this too, of what are we losing from an adaptation standpoint by literally sitting in air conditioning, driving in our air conditioned cars, going to an air conditioned gym, doing exercise? Like again, I think there's still a ton of benefits to it. And, my little argument from a physiologic flexibility standpoint is you should probably spend some time doing heat regulation because that is a capacity humans have. But it feels like you take that concept and you extend it forward now. And I even ran into this when I was teaching fitness experts at a 2 year program here. There's still this infatuation with, well, if I don't have this piece of equipment or I don't have the Glute Builder 4000, like that, I can't get the physique I want or get the body comp I want. But you go back to, even like before, Dianabol and before steroids, the 1950s, 1940s, turn of the century, 1900s, Saxon, all those guys, like they didn't even have power racks. Like they basically had
No.
some kettlebells and like a bar was like a cool thing. A
hmm
lot of them before drugs even built extremely impressive physiques. So, what are your
Yeah.
general thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it goes into this idea of like people just tending to overthink things nowadays and
Oh,
like,
for sure.
a little bit of program hopping as well. Because that's the bad thing with social media is you see the next hot trend where, back in the day, I remember like finding a workout in a book and being like, this is it. Like
Oh
this is
yeah.
the workout that's going to get me the results. And you didn't see what the results everyone was getting from that workout.
Yeah, you had no
You know,
idea.
so you trusted it, right? You like, oh my God, this is from this guy. I know him. He writes these articles. I've seen a few of his client transformations, and like that belief and that buy-in, you know, you went in, you worked your butt off. And I feel like that's what those guys did too. Like they were just they enjoyed it. They went in and they knew they had to work hard. And I think again, a lot of this optimization culture, like hitting from the exact angle, like no doubt it's making a difference in bodybuilding. Like the
Oh,
physiques,
for
you know, are
sure.
improving, all that. But for just the average Joe, I think it often is a net negative. Like, you know, instead of just finding something you enjoy and working hard at it and not trying to optimize every single, like you said, driving in the perfect conditions and making sure you have the right equipment and like, you know, like not sweating too much when you're deadlifting because it's going to mess up your grip, right? Well, find another exercise, do a one-handed, you know, I mean, like there's other ways around it. So, yeah, I think that's a huge problem
Yeah, and it
nowadays. Again, just not trusting what you're following or seeing something new and switching and all of that.
yeah, I see that with the rise of like more cable work now, which I like. I think there's a time and a place for it. There's obviously from a mechanical standpoint, there's some cool things you can do with cables you can't do with just sort of gravity-based stuff because of the cable, which is amazing. But I mean, I only go to a commercial gym twice a week, maybe once a week now in the summer. But even then, you see the same. It tends to be younger guys who are kind of eel-shaped rakes that are just hanging out at the cable machine doing 14 different angles and
I know, yeah.
not using the handles and God knows whatever else. And I'm just thinking like, I don't know, maybe eat a sandwich and do some
Yeah,
deadlifts. Like,
sure.
I don't know.
So I was going to bring that up. So I feel like you had a newsletter on the deadlift
I did,
not too
yeah.
long ago, how like effective it is. And like,
Oh yeah.
I totally agree. Like so many people nowadays are like, why would you deadlift? Like that doesn't hit any one muscle like really
What?
well. Like it doesn't hit your hamstrings as well as an RDL, or it's more taxing, the stimulus fatigue ratio, you know, like
Right.
all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, most people aren't to that level. Like they would build so much more, just pick something heavy off the floor. Like I'm a huge fan of just kind of that simple stuff. Like it works. And that's another issue I have is so many people, so many trainers online now. I've never trained people in person. Like it just has not,
Never. Like
never.
not a single time.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, when you only have someone, I mean, when someone only has time for, you know, 3 lifts a week or something, like it's a great exercise. Like you're gonna get way more bang for your buck than, yeah, doing 50 different angles of a, yeah, cable pull or bicep curl.
Yeah, I mean, my go-to for that is, yeah, use a trap bar. I think you can make an argument. I get your opinion on this too, of a trap bar is easier to teach. It's easier for people to figure out. Yeah, I get that it's a squat hybrid. It's not really a deadlift and a hinge and blah, 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 whatever. But it's a compound lift most people can execute with rather decent form with not a ton of teaching. And you can put a lot of weight on it relative to other lifts. And I always go back to just the old school Bill Starr 5x5. Like if you want
Oh yeah.
some mix of hypertrophy and strength, like just push 5x5, even if you only push it on deadlift. Like I think you can make huge changes just by doing that. And again, it's not easy. It's definitely hard. I wouldn't say it's fun. I actually kind of like it, but you just progressive overload. What is a load that you can progress in a safe manner? And if you can load it with more load safely, especially for younger audience members or people, yeah, like do that.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I totally agree. And like, I don't know, so many of my clients have probably heard me say this, but I'm a huge fan of the quote, like many people overestimate what they can accomplish in the short term, but they
Yep.
like underestimate what they can accomplish in the long term. And like adding 2.5 pounds to the bar, like I know it's simple, or like 5 pounds to the bar, like that is going to make a difference over the long. If you just stick with that and like really focus, I feel like we've just forgotten progressive overload.
No, that's not
Um,
sexy, Zach. What are you talking
yeah, I
about?
know, I
That's
know,
not
I
going to be an
know, I know. It's
Instagram
so
post.
boring. No, I know it's so boring. That's why you won't see me on Instagram too much. Because for one, I'm like so contextual. I'm like, well, it depends on this and X, Y,
Yeah,
Z.
yeah.
I'm really bad about social media, but yeah. And then going back to the trap bars, it is interesting. Like you were, I don't know which direction you want to go with that, but I do like the trap bar. I mean, you know, I use it a decent amount, but I find that actually a lot of clients have more back pain with a trap bar.
They
I don't,
can, yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's very because I feel like with a trap bar, you can get your lats a little tighter. You can set into your glutes a little more, like because you have to set back a little bit more. So I feel like with proper teaching, a
You're
straight
saying with the
bar,
straight bar or with the trap bar?
with a straight bar, you can better engage
Got
your
it.
lats
That
and
makes
you
sense.
can better kind of set into your hips a little more. And I feel like most people that say like, well, I don't have back pain with a trap bar, they're squatting it. I mean, they're doing like a, basically a squat. So I'm a fan of a trap bar, don't get me wrong. It's just, it kind of depends person to person. I find with good teaching, I can get a straight bar, better.
Yeah, I find that if I'm working with someone in person, my default would be if I have time to work with you, I'll definitely teach you how to do a straight bar deadlift. But I've also seen how many people screw that
Oh
up
yeah.
a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
And I think I've told this story before, but I don't know if you remember the old tactical strength challenge that RKC used to have back in the
Mhm.
day. So I think the entry one for guys was max deadlift, max pull-ups, and then number of snatches with the 24 kg in 5 minutes. And it was kind of a cool thing because you've got a 1RM lift, you've got a body weight relative lift, and then you've got, sort of this pseudo endurance type thing. And so I remember doing that, and I remember doing 123 snatches in 5 minutes, and that was just absolutely disgusting after doing that. And then the second year, or no, it was the fourth year I did it, I'm like, oh, they have the elite one, which is max deadlift, was it pull-ups with 10 or 20 pounds, and then snatches with the 32 kg.
Yep.
That was absolute. I think the snatches with the 32 kg, I think I only got like 65 or something, and I was wrecked for like,
Yeah.
I don't even think I could stand up for like a half hour after that. It was horrible. But there's a guy there from, I think he came down from North Dakota, and we didn't know who he was. He's warming up, keeps going up in the deadlift. I'm sitting next to my buddy Adam Glass, and we see him just absolute round back, like a 455 deadlift. Just looked like a pooping dog. And we both turned to each other and we're like, on one hand, that's incredibly impressive that he did not hurt himself and he's fine. On the other hand, I never want to see that again.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Oh man, I've seen some. It's hard for me to go to commercial gym much anymore because I'm
Oh,
just,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty rough. But I do remember that test. I feel like when I was an intern, do you know Mike Robertson?
Oh, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was prepping for that. And I remember his hands being all like
Oh, your hands just get
toasted. And
destroyed
so
if you're not
I would kind of mess
ready.
around with him. Yeah, yeah. And just, yeah, but that was a big thing back then. I mean, that was around, I don't know, 2010 probably.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
That was kind of the time frame. But yeah, it was a pretty big thing. Um,
What are kind of some of your go-to lifts that you find programming? Like if someone says, "Hey, I want better body composition," so we could divide that into obviously getting a little bit leaner at some point. But I think the other part that people forget is you probably need to add some muscle. Like even if you take, I would say even the average female, if you can change their body comp by only 5 pounds. So if you could wave your magic wand and magically add 5 pounds of lean body mass and make them 5 pounds leaner at the same time, or for guys like 10 and 10. Like if you could add 10 pounds of actual lean body mass and lose 10 pounds of fat, that is like a substantial difference that I feel like is underplayed currently, where everything
mhm.
seems to be pushing to these extremes. Where I think if you could just add a little bit more lean body mass and lose some fat, like you can look quite a bit different without these extremes. We're not talking about gain 20 pounds of mass and lose 20 pounds of fat. Like it's not as extreme, I don't think, as what people realize to see a noticeable difference.
Yeah. Well, and we can come back to this. I know we're going to talk about nutrition too. I
Yeah,
love both
yeah.
topics, but like that's an issue I see with a lot of, nutrition clients is they just want to lose as much weight as possible. They're like,
Yep.
I just want to lose weight. I know that's what will make me happy. And it's like, I bet you aren't going to
Yeah.
be super happy with your body comp if we get you very lean because you
Yep.
just don't have enough muscle. Um, so yeah, I think that needs to be a huge priority is focusing on that. And so as of right now, so I train some people out of my garage, and then I also have online clients that have full commercial gym. But I like to keep it simple, so I always find some type of like squatting pattern that fits the person really well. It doesn't have to be a back squat, a front squat, it can be a leg press, a hack squat. I mean, I do like a pretty good compound, type squat type pattern. some type of hinge pattern, RDL, deadlift, it can even be a hip extension on a 45 degree. I mean, there's many different options, an upper body horizontal push, upper body horizontal pull, vertical push pull. Those are kind of the big ones. And then, some accessories are kind of my go-to. But if someone's just really short on time, I keep it simple with like, a lower body, a push and a pull, like upper push, upper pull, and then maybe one to two accessories. And again, if you focus on that like progressive overload, most people can, dang, they can get 80-85% of their, I mean, maybe more of what they
Hmm.
need. If they just do that for 2 years and try to add weight to the bar, and they don't need a lot of exercise variety, you just don't. And you can get into that later if it's boring or something like that. But I mean, I'm like you. I could do the same lifts over and over. Like I don't get bored of well, maybe, I don't know. You said that earlier anyways with the Bill Starr routine. Like you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like I can do similar things over and over. And I know some people can't. So I will include a little bit of variety, but that's where people run into issues too, is they want to switch exercise a lot because you feel like you progress faster. But really, that's just right. That's just your nervous system. I mean, you're just kind of learning the pattern. You're getting better at doing it as opposed to actually adding mass from, progressive overload with it. Um,
Yeah. I was laughing because I thought of the quote from my coach, Adam Glass, who I'm asking him like so one of my goals is to pick up the 175-pound inch dumbbell. So I'm, asking him about, specificity and stuff. And he's done it, multiple times. I used to train with him here when he was in the cities. And
oh, wow.
I think one day he had an hour to see how many times he could pick up the inch dumbbell. And he got like 63 reps or something just absolutely bananas. Like most people can't pick it up, period. Like I have
Well,
a
yeah.
100-pound replica here, and I would say half of the people who train could pick that up. Like I've had one person pick up the 135 who was not training for grip sport or something like that. So, and I remember asking him, I said, well, what about all these, different, I was kind of joking with him because I've known him for years. I said, what about all these different varieties and all these other weird grip implements and everything you see online? He's like, maybe, but he's like, the key is just to go out and pick up something heavy that looks like a round shaped dumbbell and to just do it over and over. I said, oh,
Mhm.
so Adam, that's the key to success? He's like, yep, because my autistic ass can go out there for an hour and just pick up a dumbbell and set it down again and come back the next day and do it again.
Maybe that's my issue. I probably am on this. I'm on probably on the spectrum a little bit.
But I
Yeah.
find that is a key because like I've screwed up people's programs years ago by injecting variety when they were making really good progress. And I just felt like it was my own insecurity of like, oh my God, why are they going to pay me all this money? And I'm just going to tell them to do the same thing again next month, but just a little bit different. But the reality was I did them a disservice because I actually they got worse results.
Yeah. Well, and
You're
many,
always finding this fine line between let's give you the things that are going to work to get you to your goal. If we can inject some novelty and some variability, by all means, we'll definitely do it. But we're not going to do like these wholesale complete changes of your program every 6 weeks.
yeah, no, definitely. And also too, many people like they feel like they're stalled if they don't progress every week or like
Yeah,
every
which is
even every second time. It's like that's so silly, right? So if like let's say you bench 100 pounds and then, you set a PR, you had 105 pounds. It's not like the very next time if you do 105 pounds again, you don't make progress. Like, oh, that's no longer a stimulus. Like I
hmm
hit 105 pounds one time. It's not like it no longer is like a stimulus that'll build muscle. It's like, it's crazy. You could do 105 pounds, multiple times, and that's still going to be a stimulus for you. So, I think people are quick to change too, um, if they're not adding weight or reps every single time, you know.
Yeah. And as you know, like after you've been doing this shit for decades now, like
Oh,
I mean, I literally the other day did one more rep on an inch, a 135 inch with the 2.5 pound counterweights. And I was stoked. I was like, hey, that's great. Like last week I picked up the 135 for 5 singles, and my PR before that was 4 singles. So it's like you're literally, and that doesn't even happen every session.
yeah.
Those are
Oh,
those
yeah.
are the good sessions. Those are the ones that are like, yeah, today was a great day.
Hmm.
One more friggin' rep.
I know.
But
And you
after a
hear,
while, that's that's progress.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I've heard of like Olympic lifters, like they're notorious for doing the same exact lifts over and over, right? And like even power lifters. And it seems like it like they'll be stalled for a long period of time and then all of a sudden they hit like a kind of a breakthrough, whether then they'll
Yep.
like set PRs for a while and then it's like a stall for
Yep.
quite a while and it's another breakthrough. And yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, that's why I mean, again, we're talking about like really strong people, like, but even the mental aspects of like imagery and like confidence and all that stuff is, so big. Like in other sports, basketball, you start hitting some shots, it feels like everything goes down, or golf, like it starts to flow. And I think the same thing can happen with lifting too. But
Yeah. And it seems like the longer you do it, the more non-linear it is.
yeah,
Like I remember my axle was stuck at like 285 for quite a while, and I wasn't necessarily working out as my number one lift. And then I'd go away from it, and it felt like, oh man, I'm just like kind of, starting over. Work sets were 255, 265, or whatever. But there'll be this period of time where it seems like if you can hit, so the thing I did on the last block was if I can hit 90% of my 1RM, I think that's going to transfer to my new 1RM, even if it's not there that day, right? So if I could hit singles with 275, I could hit doubles with 265. And if I could just keep progressing the volume of that, maybe even only adding one more rep for the entire exercise session, and sometimes not even doing that. And then all of a sudden I had a whole run where I'm like, oh, I hit 290. Oh, that was great. And it was like, oh, I hit 290 again. Oh, I got 295 to my knees. Oh, I hit 290 for the third time. And so there's this weird non-linearity to it where I don't think if you're used to that or know that it's coming, it feels incredibly frustrating, like you're stuck, but you're still making progress. It's just really slow, but that does transfer at some point, which I don't know how to predict that, but it just seems like that's the pattern.
yeah, yeah. It makes me, I don't know, it reminds me, and again, I like just talking to you about like kind of the old times because I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know,
I
we're
love
both
that
from like
stuff.
the same stuff. But do you remember like Matt Perryman? Like
Oh
squat,
yeah, I
squat
haven't heard
every
him in
day.
years.
Do you remember like squat every day? Yeah,
Yeah.
I still think his book is like one of the, I can't remember the name of it. And it's excellent. It's like mindset
Wasn't it
and stuff
literally
like
like called Squat Every Day or something like that?
yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean, I think that's a
yeah.
great book, like really good. And it's not just about squatting every day. He has a lot of good stuff in there. But I did that. Like I did a phase of like squatting every day. And I remember there were just phases where like I would just PR, and it would jump like crazy. And then I would have times where it's super low. It's not super relevant what we're talking about, but it just made me think of that in him. And I was like, I wonder what he's
But I
doing.
think
But
it is relevant. I think people forget that if you want to get better at something, there's no getting around specificity.
yeah,
So like writing a program, if someone wants to get better at a trap bar deadlift, like shocker, you're probably going to trap bar deadlift as much as we possibly can get away with. And then at some point, okay, let's do accessory stuff and that type of thing where it seems like more now it's like, well, I'm only gonna do that thing once a week, or I'm only gonna do it for because 3 by 10, God forsake, we haven't changed anything since DeLorme in like the friggin' what was it, 1957 or something like that.
that
I
sounds
mean,
right.
decades ago, right? And
Hmm.
I'm like, if you can handle more volume, like there's nothing magical even about 5 by 5. Like I've taken sets of 5 on trap bars out to sometimes 7, 8, 9 sets. Now, granted, that's over an hour, hour and a half, and something you would progress to over an extremely long period of time, and it's probably not needed for everyone. But there's nothing magical about 3 sets. If you
Yep.
can get more specific practice on the thing you want to do, I think you're just going to be better. And again, that's going to drop off at some point, but like try to maximize that first.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that, I mean, that kind of speaks too about like individuality. Like, we often hear these references or like there's these camps, right, of like low frequency or high frequency or
Yeah.
high volume or low volume. And there's these camps and it's like, again, work with people, like train people and you'll see that some works for some doesn't work for others. Like some are just they respond to higher volume or lower volume or higher frequency or lower frequency. Um, I think that's really why you need to stay in this a while and like take notes. I mean, again, if you want to get better, right? You got to
Right,
learn what
right.
works for you. Try different programs, but do it slowly. Like definitely give it an honest shot for a while, and then change a variable and see how you respond to it. But that's, I
How do
mean, that's
you,
why I love coaching, just figuring stuff out like that.
yeah, how do you figure that out for your clients? Because I have, in all honesty, found a good way to figure it out. I mean, what I do is I literally program to their constraints because most people have a certain time that they can do or frequency or equipment or whatever. So I have this whole list of like what are all their constraints. So, if someone says I only have a half hour 5 days a week, you can't write a program that's an hour, right? You're just shooting yourself in the
Yeah.
foot. But let's say they've got an hour a day, 6 days a week, like, something like that. They got access to most equipment. I just start them very low on volume, like one or two sets, and then I just scale them up until they either run out of time, their HRV goes off a cliff, or they send me multiple emails about how they hate their life because they feel so beat up. And then I'm like, hey, we probably found what your volume is for now, so let's back you off and then just, kind of wave you up and down. Have you found a way, or what do you do to try to determine like how much, even just simply volume they should be doing?
Yeah, so it's almost identical to you. I mean, I will really start on the low end of volume. I mean, as far as sets anyways.
Right,
And I
right,
want
it
to make
sets.
sure
Yep.
someone's training hard first. Like make sure they're putting in the
Yeah, they're
intensity,
doing
stuff like
quality
that.
effort.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And then I will usually change one variable at a time. Like I will, like let's say they always say, I'll usually ask them, like, do you feel like you could do another set here? Um, or the next day, like, where do you feel most sore or tired? Or if I notice a performance drop off in like their upper body pushing or, something like that, then usually I know that's not the next one to change. But if they just always seem fresh in a particular body part, then that's the one I'll usually add to first and just see how they respond. Um, and then I'll usually pick another area and I'll just kind of wave it up like that. And some people can handle a lot. I mean, even with just not a lot of rest period, um, which again, I am a fan of rest, no doubt. But like if they can still perform like they have been with a little bit less rest, then I will push them, to try to get in more in less time. Um, and I'll just kind of wave it like that until we find a good kind of sequence. But yeah, if they start getting joint issues, there's a lot of things that come into it. They may need that volume, but they just maybe their joints don't handle it or something like that.
sure.
So, a lot of variables there with that.
If you find that they're not able to recover as well and their rest periods are long, do you think an aerobic limiter at that point potentially?
So yeah. I mean, that's usually my first thought. Um,
It could be a bunch of shit, but
yeah. But yeah, it definitely can. I mean, if they don't have the ability, and I was just listening to you and Nathan Jeekins
oh yeah,
podcast,
thank
a
you.
while back, and you guys were talking about. Well, he's a former colleague. Well, we've all were former colleagues over at Rapid, and
Yeah, yeah,
so he and I talk sometimes and stuff. And you guys were talking about, just the aerobic system being important, just in its ability to help you recover between high intensity efforts, like CrossFit and stuff like that. So definitely, that can definitely be a limiter with some people. And usually I can tell, or I just know from their background, like, are you doing anything
yeah.
aerobic? Then it's probably that, right? Whereas if they're, already a sport athlete and they're like doing a lot of stuff or something, then I'm like, it's probably just an overall like recovery issue, not your aerobic system. So usually you can make a pretty good guess, just knowing the client and kind of what they're doing outside of that.
Yeah. Last movement question, then we'll go into some nutrition stuff. Um, any favorite exercises for we'll just split it roughly between upper body and lower body? I mean, for mine, for me, like the pairing of dumbbell bench press of some form and one arm dumbbell split stance rows. Like for God's sake, take your knee off the bench. Like I don't know what people are doing with that. It, like bugs the crap out of me. Just do it from a split stance. You'll feel better. And then lower body, obviously I like goblet squats, front squats if people can do them. But lately, if people have access, I think to a belt squat machine or even a hack squat machine that feels good. Unfortunately, I've noticed a ton of variability in the way the
Oh
hack
yeah.
squat machines are designed. Like you'll get on some and they feel like trash and some that feel good. So if it feels like trash no matter what you do for moving it around, like just don't use it. But those have been kind of my favorites for a little while now in terms of programming.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I love front squats. Like that's like my
Yeah, I think
favorite
if you can do
lift.
it, front
Yeah,
squats are
if you can do it. But
extremely
yeah, some people
underrated.
it's just they just can't hold the bar. I mean, like clean grip, cross arm, it just doesn't
Yep.
fit their body very well. So if that isn't a go-to, then hack squat is my favorite, but like you said, it has to fit them. I have yet to find a good one for me. but I
Yeah,
haven't
I
trained
finally
at a lot of
found
different
one at the
gyms.
gym here. It
Okay.
it
Yeah,
feels
you're
pretty good, but
lucky.
90% because I have stupid long femurs, it feels like
Yeah.
trash.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I have a super long torso. So like
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually built to squat like front. That's why front squats are awesome
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. Um, but still, I don't know why a hack squat just does not, and leg press, it's hard to find a good leg press for me.
Hmm.
So anyways, hack squat, front squat, and if they just cannot do that, I do like a Bulgarian, but again, it has to be the right person, right? I think you can really you can really challenge the lower body with a Bulgarian. Um, so those are probably my big three there. Upper body, to be honest, so a client gave it to me. I have a Smith machine in my garage.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just love, a lot of clients just an incline Smith press, I
Hmm.
find just works for a lot of people. It almost like forces them into the right position. I mean, if I
Oh,
get the
sure.
angle right and I teach them elbows under the bar, just so many people do really well with that. Like just in terms of pure strength and adding some muscle, there's a lot of stability there. Um, so I like that one. Also, just like a single arm bench press, big fan of that. And then, man, pulling, that's a good question. I think I'll go with what you said. I mean, I like that a lot. I like a lever row, or like a
Is
Meadows row, but
like a
someone
Meadows row?
has
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
But I have them support maybe with the other hand if they just aren't
Yep.
good at hip hinging or back issues. But man, a Meadows row really, I mean, personally, I love that one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And my last pitch is if you've ever played with the Voltra One from Beyond Power, it's like the little cable machine in the
I've
box.
seen it.
It's so fun because you can do like super heavy eccentrics, isometrics, etc. And I've just been playing a lot with more eccentric loading on accessory stuff. And I think that's like super untapped for people that are a little bit more experienced. And then even for newer people, I'll just put it on a slight eccentric, and it's amazing how much it cleans up their form because now I'm doing a longer time under tension and they feel the more resistance again it. There's just something where it maybe it's the time domain, maybe they just have more time, maybe they have more feedback or whatever. But I found for those two uses, it's been super, super helpful.
I think that would be really helpful, especially, I mean, like beginners, like you said, and like some of my older clients, like the eccentric is what they just want to like rush it or just have no
Yeah.
control over it. And that is a downfall to the Smith machine is like, there's just not as much eccentric, at least mine, there's hardly any eccentric loading, but yeah, I need to look into that. I'm gonna make a
Yeah.
note actually.
I'm an affiliate for him too. Shout out to, Elliot and those guys. But it's
Uh,
It's one of those things when I first talked to him about it because I did the Triphasic 2 book and I'm like, hey, it's a good way of doing eccentrics and stuff. And he was super cool. I said, can I try one out? And they ended up sending one to me just as a demo. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And after like 30 days, I wrote back to him like, yeah, I just love this thing so much. So just invoice me the price. I'll just just buy it.
Yep. Yeah, no,
But it's
I need
super
to
fun.
probably invest in one. I'll have to talk to you about that after this
Yeah.
because I think it'd be helpful for my gym.
Yeah. Awesome. So related to body comp, like I know nutrition could be a whole bunch of stuff, but what's kind of like you find your big sort of go-to to start with nutrition?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing that I work with clients on is, I think I stole it from Eric Helms, but like informed eating. Like I think so
Mm.
many people just aren't aware of
Oh,
what
for
they're
sure.
doing, right? And I mean, nutrition, we want to like do as little as we can with it, but like it's a huge part of, I always tell people like eat like an adult. Like if you're an adult, like you have to brush your teeth, you have to, you know, take a shower, you have to do stuff you don't really do. And I feel like we don't want to think of nutrition that way. It's like,
No.
oh, we're gonna like I don't know, give people issues by tracking their food. And again, you have to make sure it's the right client, right? But I do try to bring some awareness with that, whether it's logging, whether it's tracking. Um, again, I don't know I think your audience is more advanced than this. We can get into the minutia, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just an overall starting point, like let's get informed about what you're doing in terms of your behaviors and eating and stuff like that. And then for me, it's always looking for the big rocks, like, hey, you're not getting protein each meal. Like macros are obviously pretty important. I don't think the carbs and fats ratio is that important, but protein. I also too like again, I think a lot of clients they want to chase this fat loss goal and but a lot of people can make a lot of progress if they just fuel themselves adequately and train harder.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
so I'm a big fan of like getting clients, once they're at a reasonable body composition, of eating enough food to fuel themselves. Like I agree, like, I mean, a lot of people are scared they're under eating and stuff like that. And I think that can be a thing, but I'm more just like make people aware, like we have a range of calories that we can eat and maintain our weight. And many people are on the low end of that range where they have the ability to eat more to push their metabolism, push their output, and to see better progress. So it kind of depends on where they're at in their spectrum. If they obviously need to lose weight, we need to attack that. But for a lot of people, they're kind of in that skinny fat or just they haven't been training that hard. Like fuel yourself for a while, train hard, don't chase a ton of fat loss right now. And then, we can pull the calories back later once you kind of get a little bit of a base going. But I think a lot of people can recomp. I mean, I really do think they can do that. Um,
Yeah, that's why I love talking to practitioners like you that do exercise and nutrition at a high level because to me they're just so and it's probably because of my background, like I did exercise physiology and then my research was in metabolism, but they're just so intertwined. And unfortunately, whenever I see in general people who only do nutrition, it's like they don't care what their output is. And you see clients just do less and less over time. Now they're holding on to less lean body mass. They can't train as hard, even if they wanted to train hard because their caloric deficit is so high and their ratios are kind of skewed. And then they get just stuck in this area where I just feel crappy. Now the gym sucks. I don't want to go anymore. And it's like, what doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Like, yes, at some point, if you're trying to step on stage or something like that, then yeah, there's extremes at any point. But like you said, for most people, you can just eat more of the right things. Like you can do more. Your performance can be better. You have a better stimulus to add more lean body mass. You're actually burning more calories because your output is higher and just that general, I remember reading the G-Flex article by John Berardi years ago that like just changed my world of like, oh, oh. And I remember looking at all my clients through the poor bastards, especially the women were at 1,500 calories. And I'm like, oh, I screwed up. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting too, like, because I've worked with a lot of pro athletes and especially with them, like they already have the output, right?
Yes.
And when you
Yep.
when you tie the nutrition with them, it is crazy the changes in like they see crazy recomp results. Like
Oh, for
I've seen
sure.
some DEXs on some of those guys. It's like, how did you do? I mean, I know they're genetically blessed, yes, 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 da da da.
Yeah,
Da.
but still.
But also like when you tie the nutrition with the right output, it's crazy. And I'm not saying everyone needs to train that much. You have to tie the nutrition of what they can actually do and stuff like that. But I also find too, and I've felt this, right? Because I've gone through, cuts and gaining phases and stuff like that. And like you can get to the stage where you feel okay. Like, you're kind of in this deficit and, you're just walking around day-to-day activities okay and you feel all right. But like you're kind of just this low metabolic state. Like you're just I don't know, you feel okay to like do your day-to-day tasks, but like if someone asked you to like go for a hike or like go do a workout or something like that, it would be like a struggle. Like it
Yeah.
would, but you don't notice it because you don't put in that effort. And when you actually fuel yourself with the right foods and manage digestion and all that stuff, like you can go harder. You can put in a workout. And I think too, like what people are already working out, I see the difference in the intensity, right, with enough fueling and stuff. Because someone may be in there and they feel like they're going hard and like, yeah, I mean, I'm burning and I'm, getting a good sweat, but like, there's definitely a difference between being able to give it, really push yourself and not.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of working with higher level athletes is that they know their outputs. Right. And I think that's the hard part about even just, clients who generally exercise. And I get it with like weight training and things like that. It is harder to document. You don't have to go nuts per se, but it just feels like, oh, if you went to do and did a row and you did a 2K, what's your time? Well, I don't know. It always feels hard. Okay. Like, but are you getting better over time? Is your heart rate changing? Things that where the machine is already giving you an output. We can argue if that output's correct or not, but relative to that machine, you can see if you're getting better or worse. But a lot of times they're like, well, I don't know. My previous trainer just said just go hard. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, that's good, but I'm kind of this weird stickler where I want to know what was the output? What did you do? And not that it's like you said, it's not going to change every session or even week to week per se, but are we going to trend in the right direction or not? Are we going to keep this on maintenance so we're not losing too much? And that gives you the ability to kind of, iterate with the nutrition side then too.
Yeah. Well, and two, like I think there's some truth to this notion of like chase, like if your goal is body composition, chase performance and not like
Yes.
body composition. Because one thing with athletes is like many of them eat like trash, but they
Oh, of
fuel
course.
themselves based on their efforts, right? They're like, man, I didn't, like I just had a hard workout, like I'm ravenous. So they'll like go and get a ton of calories, right? Because they need to fuel themselves, or like they're hungry, or like, maybe they didn't feel as good that day. So they'll like drink on a Gatorade. They're like, man, I'm low energy. So they'll grab a Gatorade from the sports coach or something like that. So they fuel themselves for that effort. And that's why they can go hard each time. But I mean, it doesn't always work out the best for them. But when they have really good nutrition, it works out. So I feel like with a general pop person or a body comp person, they more dictate their training from their nutrition. So like they may have a workout on paper and they have their nutrition on paper, or they have, they eat a certain way and then they have a workout maybe, but their intensity will then scale down because they're not eating enough, right? There may be like they have a workout, it's 3 by 8, 3 by 10, and they may do that, but they're not giving near the effort and they don't know what they've done before, right? Just like you said, you're like, are you getting better? And they're like, I don't know, I finished the workout, you
Yeah.
know. So
I
like,
did the thing. Well, that's a good
yeah,
start.
yeah. So I think if you chase performance and have goals, like, hey, I want to hit a, whatever, 315 front squat, or, I mean, just throw out a random number. Then many times, you'll eat if you know your performance is off or something like that. So I think that's another good, like setting goals and stuff like that around performance can help.
How do you determine how many carbohydrates someone would have? I feel like that's the hardest one for me to figure out. Like, we got pretty good research on protein. We've got some pretty good info on fat in terms of, what you need to keep your hormones and all that kind of stuff going on. But I've just seen ranges in carbohydrates that make no sense whatsoever to me. I've had, natural female competitors for physique. I think she weighed 125, super strong. 3 weeks out from competition, eating 250 grams of carbs. I've had a dude, strongman competitor guy, twice her size that he maxed out on like 260, which I'd say generally is low for that sport. But because years ago I kept thinking it's got to be muscle mass, it's got to be body size, it's got to be output, and all those things I think do matter. But I just find like on an individual level, the variability from one person to the next is just kind of bonkers.
Are you talking about, so I know you're asking directly about carbs, but are you also assuming calories are constant? Like with those two
Yeah, that's the hard
people?
part too, is that even their caloric needs seem to vary quite a bit too.
Yeah.
And that probably goes back to like Levine stuff with NEAT and the people who are kind of thrifty versus non-thrifty metabolism and all the different theories with that. But yeah, it seems like even just if you go simpler and just go carb, just total calories, and I get it, the equations will generally estimate from lean body mass, and I get it. On a population level, I think those are okay. But I just find on an individual level, it just, I've had way too many outliers where the equation that was supposed to make them lose weight made them fat.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Does
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that make sense?
So that's why I like to start with where someone's at first. Like I like
Yeah.
to see roughly where they're at. I mean, let's assume we have that information first. Then I usually won't make big changes to that. Like I'll usually skew if I feel like they're a little low on carbs or and high on fat, I'll just kind of skew that. Same with calories. If I feel like they're under eating relative to where they should be, and they're not like super overweight, then I probably will try to work those up, just depending on body composition goals. Um, I mean, so that's a little bit of my kind of approach. And normally with that, I'm usually, and I agree with you, I've seen everything. Like, I've experimented with keto, I've experimented, you name it, I've done it. And I personally I mean, I have IBD, so like
Okay.
I uh I have to be pretty cautious and like anyways. So that's one reason why I just do a little better with a little bit more fat and less fiber. But most clients is somewhere in like the 20 to 35% range for calories. I usually do it based on percentage. And then I set carbs last typically. So if
Hmm.
someone's more of a high intensity type athlete, then I usually keep fat on the lower end. so I can push more carbs. And then if someone is more sedentary, then I more experiment. I like to run experiments to see how they feel. I'll even shift fat across the day. Maybe they prefer more, fat earlier in the day if they're not, more sedentary, more mental cognition, stuff like that. And I'll push carbs later just for more relaxation, um, kind of stuff like that. But that is my general approach. But I'm like you, I've seen some crazy. I mean, I've had some people that, I usually don't go below like um, about zero point 0.3, zero point 0.4 grams per kg
Okay.
as far as fat. I usually won't, well, I think zero point 0.3 is the bare minimum I would.
Yeah, because you start running into hormonal issues and all
Yeah,
sorts of stuff at that point.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if I've had one that low, but like if I saw that and someone like preferred it, I still would,
Yeah.
I'd have to see some blood work and stuff, and just ask about libido and all that. But so yeah, that would be the bottom end, around zero point 0.4 kg as far as fat, if I had to go that low, for like a competitor or something like that, and everything else would go to carbs. Um, does that answer your question
Yeah,
as far as
yeah.
the
Yeah,
carbs?
and I think there's also still this myth that, oh, bro, if you eat more carbs, they're going to turn into fat because of insulin. And I'm like, and you know this, right? If you go back and look at like the Atkinson studies that they did many, many decades ago, and these were not athletes. Like I think at one point in one of the studies, they had them take in 900 grams, I think, of carbohydrates like 4 or 5 days in a row. And basically, very minimal of that went to fat, like so de novo lipogenesis. Like, yeah, towards the end of it, you did start storing more of it as fat, but I think it's underappreciated how beneficial carbohydrates are for performance, and they're not going to directly convert to body fat. Like, yes, calories in, calories out, all that stuff still matters, but we also have the thermic effect of, those conversions and things
Mhm.
like that. And if you're getting like we talked about with output, if you're getting a greater output with it, you paradoxically, in some cases, might even be a little bit negative because your
Mhm.
output is now so much better, you feel better, etc. So it's hard because you know output relates to input and input relates to output. You're not. I think people think that well, my metabolism is just static and it never changes, and we should just be able to figure out all these numbers, and I give you your magical macros you have for the rest of your life, and it it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and many people, when they think of carbs, they're not thinking of just carbs. They're thinking of carbs and fats together,
Oh, of
right? They're
course. They're
thinking of
thinking
like
of like
desserts
muffins and
and
cake and
yeah, and like I mean, if you eat a potato, do you eat a plain baked potato? No, you're putting sour cream or cheese
Yep.
or butter or same with toast or almost any carbohydrate you're not doing. So in a way, I feel like low carb is just easier for people because it
Sure.
just takes some foods off the table that are usually paired with fat that makes it hypercaloric, right? If you
Yep.
take anything away, if you just did a super high carb, low fat diet, it would also be, very hard to overeat. Like potatoes, I think they ranked the highest on the satiety
Yeah, the old
index. So
potato diet.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Or rice. Have you ever heard of Walter Kempner and his rice diet?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
same
So I
thing.
mean, yeah,
Same thing.
exactly. White rice and fruit.
Yep.
Like it's just so hard to overeat that stuff. So again, I think you just have to be mindful. And I do tell clients this, like if you're going to have a lot of carbs in a meal, and this is for more of a general, like keep the fat on the lower end, right?
Yeah.
So like if you get a bunch of potatoes or, whatever, like maybe have a New York strip instead of a ribeye, or like, just be mindful of the fat intake a little bit. But yeah, fat is the easiest macro to store. I mean, we store it
Hmm.
super easily. Dietary carbs are very rarely stored unless, like you said, DNL or something like that. But that's just if you way overdo it. So again, I think it's just hard to choose good carb source for people. You have to prep them. Like potatoes
Yep.
take work, rice takes work. Beans, legumes, whole grains, all those stuff are great, but it just takes a little more effort for most people to kind of like fit that in and make a meal taste good. Whereas like pasta and lasagna and spaghetti and hamburgers and all that stuff is easy, but it's a fat and carb bomb, right? It's always those two together. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Just learning, I think just learning to cook is a huge skill or meal prep service or something like that.
Yeah. I feel like I've turned into a banana pusher lately because my excuse now is, oh, but I can't eat more carbohydrates and this one has fat and I need to prep. So I'm like, eat a banana.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm like microwave a potato. I mean,
yeah,
I
microwave a
even that,
potato,
you
do something like that.
yeah,
Like, if you
banana's
want
awesome.
the easiest of easiest, like pretty decent, we could argue about micronutrition, portable, like you don't need any food prep. You can just have it sit. You don't even need refrigeration. Like, have a banana is better than probably what you were going to do otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Exactly. So, I mean, I'm boring. Like, I'm a huge fan of just balanced meals for the most part.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
sometimes I will skew things a little bit, but, for example, like if you give someone just a meal that's, super high in fat, like fat slows digestion. So, again, you can feel sluggish, a little slower, a little blah. So, again, spacing fat intake out across the day just gives you more steady energy. Fat also, because it slows digestion, right? It provides satiety between meals.
Hmm.
So, you can last a little bit longer. Whereas carbs, they give you a little quicker energy. I mean, this is basic for a lot of people, but a lot of people don't think about this stuff. I tell clients, like, if you're ravenous in the moment, don't go for a handful of nuts or like nut butter. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to hit you quick. Have a piece of fruit that's hydrating, that's,
Yep.
got some fructose, glucose, like that'll hit you and that'll satiate you. But if you're going to have to then wait another 5 hours to eat, like, get some protein and fat in you, too, like that's going to delay, you know, absorption and all that stuff and just keep you full longer. So, again, we also just don't want to be snacking all day. Like for optimal digestion, you're migrating motor complex, which basically is just, they call it like a sweep. It sweeps through your stomach, your intestine, and moves things along. And every time you eat, that basically doesn't work. It stops working. So, you don't want food just lingering in your intestine for a long period of time. You want digestion to be moving things through. So, I think time between meals is really important. So, again, that's where balanced meal is just boring, but it's really kind of what's important. So many people are running into digestion issues nowadays. And again, I think it is a lot of it's, again, our food culture, definitely, but there's also the restrictive diets and things like that that just, kind of run people into issues as well.
And as you know, like, and studies support this too, that people just don't register snacking. Like,
Oh.
it just doesn't seem to register even on dietary recalls and all that kind of stuff. And I remember traveling recently and I bought these little containers of the Blue Diamond almonds or whatever. I thought, oh, this would be great. I'll just throw a bunch in my bag or whatever. And I'm on the plane eating, I'm going, what, they put like 12 almonds in this freaking bag? And I look at like one serving, 120 calories or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, I even kind of forgot that that's not many nuts.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I tell clients that all the time. I'm like, 10 almonds is like, a lot. It's like the calories in almost two apples or like an apple and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, as
So
we wrap up, talk to me a little bit about micronutrition. How do you do any fancy testing with that? Do you emphasize it? Like, what do you do with the more on the micronutrition side?
yeah, so it depends on clients' goals. I do have a lot of clients that I do test. Well, yeah, that I do recommend testing, but for most, for a lot of people, I have them track. I'm a big fan of Cronometer.
Yeah, I love
So
Cronometer. Shout out to those
Cronometers,
guys. Great dudes.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So it's one of the few food tracking apps that allows you to see the micronutrients.
Hmm.
And so for a lot of clients, I'm just helping them find big gaps there. Like if you log in Cronometer, and also too, you do have to be careful. Like you want to use the NCCDB. Like if you type a food in their database, there's going to be multiple options to choose. And the source, you always want to choose the NCCDB because that has the most micronutrient information essentially. But with that way, you can really see where a client's lacking. And I am big on micronutrients. Like I probably focus on that just as much as the macronutrients because I mean, for one, satiation, how you feel, energy, performance in the long run, that totally depends on micronutrition. I mean, to take food and convert it to energy, you need micronutrients, and many people don't think about that. Like you can have bottlenecks, all that stuff. So, um, yeah, so I'll usually look for gaps and just seeing where they're missing the most, and I'll try to plug that in with whole foods as much as possible. I'm not huge on supplements. Like I will have some clients supplement, but very, very rarely. Um, I like to really try to get it from whole food as much as possible. Um,
Awesome. Do you find there's any micronutrient testing that is useful? I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I find some things yes, other things I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, when I was talking about I actually don't have people do micronutrient testing very often. I more do like sometimes just bl basic blood work. But
Sure.
I'm with you. Like I almost never, if I like see symptom wise, or if I just find they're always low or something like that, then I will. But I more just try to get them to hit the RDA at a minimum for that
Yeah.
because I'm with you. I've seen it all over the place and I've tried to plug in holes and I'm not seeing a difference with it. Um, so yeah, and most clients just don't want to even mess with it anyways.
Yeah. Even like organic acids testing, like I so want to believe the theory and I want it to be true so bad, but I could give you case studies where I think it makes a difference and others where it made no difference at all for the added expense and complexity and everything else. So I can't, something like that test, which is a little bit different. I don't know. I still can't make heads or tails out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm the same with gut testing. Like I
The gut
don't,
testing's all over the board.
yeah, I don't do that. If a client brings it to me, I'll look at it, but I can usually problem solve, and usually it just tells me what I already know from having them tracked. Like,
Correct.
oh, you're low in acromantia, or like, oh, you have a lot of, you're lacking XYZ. Well, it's like, well, yeah, you eat absolutely zero fiber or like
Yeah.
no fruits and vegetables, like, I don't know. It would tell me what I already feel like they should be doing as far as intelligent nutrition. Like almost never is it like, I don't know, you need to eat some obscure food or like do something crazy off the walls. It just doesn't happen. Um,
And even then, like you're probably gonna do like a rotation of the common
yeah,
offenders out anyway. So even
yeah.
if their gut testing is a disaster, yeah, I'm probably gonna pull gluten from them. I might pull dairy, I might pull, different things, but whether I had a gut test or not, I'm still gonna have to do the thing. If it's an irritant to them, I still have to remove it, from their diet and see how they feel and all that kind of stuff. So in some level, it doesn't change a lot of what I would do like day to day with someone.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, I don't know, it's just, that's why coaching is so important. Like having that experience of working with different people, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And it's all over the place. I mean, I've seen just crazy results of, some people tolerate some foods. I'm like, oh my God, like most people struggle with that and like do totally fine with it, whereas someone else is totally different. But the goal is to broaden the diet as much as possible eventually. And
Yeah.
I do find success with that. Like, going very slow, but introducing things that they don't do well with and just building the bacteria to digest those things, especially certain fermentable carbohydrates. Um, People have the ability to digest those again. You just have to do it slowly over time. Um, and ensuring good gut motility, like that's another really big one. Just ensuring you're going to the bathroom every day and things like that, I think is really important.
Yeah, because I feel like people will do, so I view like carnivore as kind of like the end of the road of an elimination type diet. But once your gut is better, even if, and I have done carnivore with certain people, like you said, the goal is to put these foods back in over time. That doesn't mean if broccoli was your biggest offense, you're gonna day one cook a pound
Oh
of
my,
broccoli and
yeah,
see if you can
exactly.
handle it. It's like, no, let's just go real slow. Let's make sure it's good. If it's not, we'll change, we'll try something else. But the goal isn't so that you have to eat carnivore the rest of your life. It's a tool to help with some people with some things. So
Well, it's the same thing with the low FODMAP, right? Is
same
it's not
thing,
meant to
yeah, or
be, it's not meant
AIP
to
or
be a
low
long
FODMAP
term,
or
yeah, long term. And yeah, I've done carnivore personally, just my IBD, and it was amazing actually for me. But yeah, you can slowly introduce just some gentle things over time. And yeah, like I said, we want to be resilient. We want to have the ability to digest a lot of different things. Um, and it seems to be that people are healthier when they do that. But again, I'm not quick to dismiss. I don't know. If someone lived on a limited diet to say that they're going to have more issues. Like I don't know that, but I do think micronutrients are very important. So even, a restrictive diet, I think you need to go out of your way to find those foods that kind of fill the gaps with what you're missing.
yeah. And also most people shouldn't be taken down by broccoli. Like all these
Yeah,
people running
no.
around online, they're like, broccoli's the worst food for you ever, or whatever, whatever. The oxalates now, I guess, are the bad evil thing, and
Yeah, it's the goitrogens and yeah, you
yeah, and
name
I'm
it.
like, okay, like, could you find people where that's an irritant? Of course you can. Does that mean everyone should live in fear of these foods with a normal, healthy digestion? Like, no.
No, no, that's where, yeah, just it's in every diet camp, but yeah, there's no bad foods technically.
Yeah. Last question. What would be your top four things? It could be exercise, nutrition, supplementation, anything we haven't even talked about for someone who wants to significantly improve their body composition. What would be your top four?
Ooh. Sleep. I definitely have to
Yes.
mention sleep. So I mean, I don't know how detailed you want me to get into sleep. I'll just say sleep and we can
Yeah, yeah.
narrow that more if you want. So sleep would be big. I would say start becoming informed with what you're eating. Like just learn what you're eating. I would recommend tracking your chronometer. Like just
Yeah.
get an idea of your macronutrients, your calories, um, and your micronutrients. I think that would be very helpful, um, in figuring out where you should be. And then from there, I mean, obviously if body composition is the goal, you need to decide, figure out where that energy needs to be to give you the results you want. Um, and that may be reducing calories, that may be increasing calories, make sure you're working out hard enough. But I would just say informed eating. We'll just call it informed eating. Number three would be some type of movement practice. I mean, again, I'm mentioning so basic stuff. I mean, again, I feel like we could have a podcast on each of these, but I am biased. I think if body composition is the goal, I think a lot of low level movement. So like move around, just different things a lot and lift weights. I mean, at the base of the pyramid, right? I mean, I think cardio is awesome for health and things like that, but you don't need that for, a good body, to be honest. Um, and then number four, God, get off social media some. Just do it, trust and believe in what you're doing and try it for a while. Like commit, learn about yourself, even if some other guru says that, you need to stay away from broccoli, but you love broccoli, or that you need to do 3 sets of 10, but you like 5 by 5, like just commit to what you're doing for a while and see how things change.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Any quick tips on sleep that you found have been implement?
Sorry, you froze on me. What were
Oh,
you saying?
quick tips on sleep. Do you find that people can implement? Because so I find whatever I can do to increase their quality of sleep first, because trying to get them to sleep another 1 to 2 to 3 hours per day or whatever, because if Bob sleeps 4.5 hours a night, oof. Like finding any amount of time in somebody's schedule is already hard enough. But if I can get them to sleep a little bit better, that's usually where I would start.
Yeah, yeah. Oh goodness. I mean, I'm really big on like circadian rhythm and light. I do think
Mm-hmm.
that makes a huge difference. So first thing in the morning, if you can, just get some light in your eyes. Like
Yep.
light is it's what's called a sight caber, but it, signals to your body that hey, it's light, it's day, it's like time to move, be up, be ready. And then at night, limit artificial light as much as you can. Um, I think those are really big. I think right now, anyways, for me, temperature. Like
Mm.
temperature is really, really big because it's so hot. If I'm sweating, like I can't sleep. Um, so, I mean, those are two big ones that I focus on with a lot of people. And then it's just having a wind down routine, like as much as possible, like be consistent with when you get up and go to bed as much as you can. Even if it's 4 hours, like be consistent with those 4 hours because your body will learn that routine and rhythm. And and you're more likely to fall asleep if your body knows that it's that time. We're just so random with what we're doing. Your body doesn't know if it's night, if it's day, if it's supposed to be running from a tiger or, relaxing. Like it just, it's kind of all over the place. So I'm really big on consistency with um, going to bed, getting up, again, within reason of what someone's schedule allows.
Yeah. Do you use anything to cool your bed at night? Do you use like a Ooler or 8 Sleep or anything like that?
No, I'm such a tightwad that I haven't invested. Even though I know that stuff is so important, I have one client. We need to talk about this Shiftwave chair. He is like, I know you've messed with that. Well,
Yeah, I
we can
got one
talk
right here in my living room.
offline. I know we can talk offline about that, but it's like changed his life. Like he is like, it
Oh,
is the greatest thing in the
tell
world.
me about it now. We'll just leave it on the
Um,
podcast if you
yeah, I
want
mean,
to.
he just, but that's all I got. I mean, he just uses it throughout the day. I have one of my pro athletes that loves it. So it just seems to be a game changer. I don't know a ton about it besides, I mean, just nervous system kind of manipulation, if you will. But how have you found it? Have you, I mean, made a big
Yeah,
deal?
it's one of those things. So I first met the guys at the Parker University conference last March. And you know, you go to these conferences, and the conference was amazing. Like, great speakers. Got to see my buddy, Kelly Starrett, Dan John was there, a bunch of people. Andy Gelpin was there, Dan Garner, all those guys. So super fun, wonderful time. Conference was amazing. And towards the end of the first day, it was a 2 day thing. I see this thing that says, "Oh, regenerate your nervous system or recovery, regenerate something like that." And my first thought is after you've gone to a bunch of these, you see lots of vendors, you're like, okay, whatever. Like it sounds bad, but I'm just used to kind of being disappointed that the feeling, the sensation, the data just never really matches the claims. But I'm like, hey, I'll go and check it out. And I tried it for just 10 minutes and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. Like I could actually feel a difference in just like 10 minutes. And so I ended up talking to the guy there for a while and he said, yeah, you should just come back tomorrow. And so the next day I got my wife, I snuck her into the conference on the last day. I said, honey, you got to go try this thing. Cause I'm like, maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm just a weirdo. I respond to this. And she was like, oh, wow, this is like super cool. And so then I pestered the poor guy for, for like 2 hours with like all my questions about, well, how does it work and what does it do? And oh, you look at HRV. Well, you could gate it to HRV with biofeedback. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're already working on that. And the long story short, I just kept pestering with a bunch of stuff. And so since I've been able to use it more chronically, the biggest thing I've noticed, and especially with clients, is to downregulate, I think is super beneficial because like, yes, all things need and equal. Do you need technology? No. Could you go outside and do a Zen style meditation, stare at a tree, or there's plenty of things you could do? Yes, but God, getting people to do those things is so incredibly difficult. Or my sales pitch for the chair now is that okay, if you have it, just do this protocol, tell them what to do, and this amount of time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. And my pitch to them is you just have to sit down and do the thing. So you get over this like inertia of, meditation, my mind always wanders and this and that, and it's kind of hot outside, and like all the things you think about why you don't want to do it. And there's some upregulation programs that are pretty good that do like some Wim Hof stuff, but I found the downregulation makes a big difference. And the thing that surprised me the most was on all my sleep metrics. Doesn't matter. I've used Garmin, I've got a Soltec device, I've got an Aura. Whenever I do like a downregulation protocol during the day for 10 to 30 minutes, my deep sleep at night is almost always substantially better. Not by like a couple minutes,
Okay.
by like quite a bit better. My deep sleep normally at night on any wearable is just trash anyway. But the thing that surprised me the most was it didn't matter necessarily when I did it during the day. Like I could do it at 11, I could do it at 2, I could do it at 5. The time of day didn't seem to
Didn't
make
matter.
any
Hmm.
difference because I
Okay.
always thought if I do it before bed, then I'll be beneficial because I'm in a more parasympathetic state. They get more translation and deep sleep, etc. And that is true. And I've noticed that with a couple of clients too. And then the last thing
Okay.
is, even people I've had come over to just do hands-on sessions and stuff. I've had them, try it out. And the crazy part is like everyone who's come back again is like, oh, I want to do that again. Like they actually wanted to do it, which is pretty rare to get someone to
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to actually downregulate.
Yeah. Yeah. And that may be the biggest benefit for him too. Yeah, he just loves it. He even like spoke for him. They sent him an extra one. He's like, I don't know, he's big into it. So he
Yeah.
always wants me to ask you what your favorite tracks are and all that stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we'll talk offline. I'll give them whatever I've been doing. So
yeah,
yeah.
cool.
And full disclosure, I am an affiliate for Shiftwave now, so if people have any questions or anything like that. And just because I'm like, well, I'll be promoting it because rarely do you run across stuff where it works and acutely the person reports that they feel a difference. Like
Yeah.
I like red light, I like some other stuff. I think there's a lot of things that can be beneficial, but you don't feel a big difference after a single session. And I think if you feel that difference, that makes compliance so much easier for people to do the thing that is beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I have three clients and all of them say, yeah, acutely they feel a big difference and just chronically I mean, they love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
cool.
cool.
Awesome. Well, where can people find out more about you now that we did our Shiftwave commercial?
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. So
Which is cool. I
I'm,
love those guys. Tell us
yeah.
more
So
about you.
I have a
Where are you at?
website. There's hardly anything on there right now. It's just zmore.com. I think I'm on Instagram as Zach, ZACHM Fitness, Zach M Fitness. I don't post a lot, but you can find a link to, reach out to me or my email or anything like that. And I love to talk about this stuff, super passionate. Like I said, coach people online, in person, nutrition, exercise. Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. And where are you at in person if people want to stop by and train in your hot garage?
Yeah, so I am in good old Southern Indiana, where Larry Bird grew up.
Oh,
That's
okay.
about the only thing that people know. It's about an hour north of Louisville, an hour south of Bloomington, Indiana,
Oh, okay.
where
Cool.
IU is, Indiana University.
Awesome. And they can contact you through the website then?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. I really appreciate it. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you.